Peppercorn rent.
Peppercorn rent.
Peppermill.
Peppermill.
Peppermint.
Peppermint.
Pepperoni.
Pepperoni.
Pepperpot.
Pepperpot.
Pepper spray.
Pepper spray.
Peppery.
Peppery.
Pill.
Pill.
He has to take pills to control his blood pressure.
Sleeping pills. A bottle of vitamin pills.
My doctor advised me to go on the pill.
Luke can be a real pill sometimes.
Pep rally.
Pep rally.
Pepsin.
Pepsin.
Pep squad.
Pep squad.
Peptic ulcer.
Peptic ulcer.
Purr.
Purr.
The park attracts 4 million visitors per year.
A speed limit of 40 miles per hour.
How much does it cost per kilo?
Rooms costing £40 per night.
Admission is £9.95 per adult.
My car does 12 miles per litre.
The work was carried out as per your instructions.
Jenny was late, as per usual.
The work was carried out as per your instructions.
Perambulation.
Perambulation.
Perambulator.
Perambulator.
Per annum.
Per annum.
A salary of $40,000 per annum.
Per kale.
Per kale.
Per capita.
Per capita.
The country's per capita income.
The number of crimes that occur per capita.
Perceive.
Perceive.
Even as a young woman, she had been perceived as a future chief executive.
Often what is perceived to be aggression is simply fear.
Children who do badly in school tests often perceive themselves to be failures.
That morning, he perceived a change in Franca's mood.
Cats are not able to perceive colour.
He perceived that there was no other way out of the crisis.
Percent.
Percent. A 10% increase in house prices.
A company with a 40% stake in the project.
I agree with you 100%.
The bank charges interest at 14%.
80% of the population voted. 80% of the population voted.
Percentage.
Percentage.
The percentage of school leavers that go to university is about 5%.
Taxes paid as a percentage of total income.
A high percentage of married women have part-time jobs.
Interest rates fell by 6 percentage points.
The numbers are small in percentage terms.
Crime figures showed significant percentage increases.
She gets a percentage for every record sold.
There's no percentage in worrying.
Percentile.
Percentile.
Perceptible.
Perceptible.
A small but perceptible change.
The sound was barely perceptible.
The light dimmed perceptibly.
Perception.
Perception.
Children's perceptions of the world.
The public perception of the government's performance.
Drugs that alter perception.
Visual perception.
Ross shows unusual perception for a boy of his age. Drugs that alter perception.
Visual perception.
Ross shows unusual perception for a boy of his age.
Perceptive.
Perceptive.
A perceptive young man.
Highly perceptive comments.
You're right. That's very perceptive of you.
Perch.
Perch.
A house perched on a cliff above the town.
Bobby had perched himself on a tall wooden stool. She watched the parade from her perch on her father's shoulders. She watched the parade from her perch on her father's shoulders.
Perchance.
Perchance.
One day, perchance, I shall tell you.
Leave now, lest perchance he find you.
Percipient.
Percipient.
Percolate.
Percolate.
The message has begun to percolate through the organisation.
These ideas were slow to percolate.
Rainwater percolates down through the rock.
Percolator.
Percolator.
Percussion.
Percussion.
Tonight, we have Paul Duke on percussion.
A range of percussion instruments.
Percussive.
Percussive.
On the piano, such chords have a fine percussive effect.
Per diem.
Per diem.
Per diem allowance.
Per diem.
Workers who are paid per diem.
Perdition.
Perdition.
An alcoholic on the road to perdition.
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 An alcoholic on the road to perdition.
Peregrination.
Peregrination.
His peregrinations took him to India.
Peregrine falcon.
Peregrine falcon.
Peremptory.
Peremptory.
Perennial.
Perennial.
Lack of resources has been a perennial problem since the beginning. Teddy bears are a perennial favourite with children.
Perestroika.
Perestroika.
Perfect.
Perfect.
His English was perfect.
The car was in perfect condition. You're very lucky to have perfect teeth.
A perfect performance.
In a perfect world, we wouldn't need an army.
The weather was perfect the whole week.
A perfect example of Gothic architecture.
The clothes were a perfect fit.
A perfect solution to the problem. Ronnie was in perfect health.
Good, you're home. Perfect timing. Dinner's on the table. That's perfect. Just the way I wanted it to look.
Crusty bread is the perfect accompaniment to this soup.
The land is perfect for sheep farming.
She thought she'd found the perfect place to live.
A perfect day for a picnic.
The perfect actor for the part.
So I made a mistake. Nobody's perfect.
He has a perfect right to know what's happening.
I felt a perfect idiot.
The economy has been hit by a perfect storm.
Mock trials help students perfect their legal skills.
Perfectible.
Perfectible.
Perfection.
Perfection.
My father expected perfection from all of us.
The search for technical perfection. The beef was cooked to perfection.
The perfection of his golf swing.
Her performance was pure perfection.
Perfectionist.
Perfectionist.
Many top athletes are perfectionists who drive themselves to excel.
Perfectly.
Perfectly.
It's perfectly normal to be nervous before a performance. The sale was perfectly legal.
You can get a perfectly good coated Sears for a lot less money.
The plan worked perfectly.
The steaks were perfectly cooked.
Perfect participle.
Perfect participle.
Perfect pitch.
Perfect pitch.
Perfidious.
Perfidious.
Perfidy.
Perfidy.
Perforate.
Perforate.
A broken rib had perforated her lung.
Perforated.
Perforated.
A perforated eardrum.
Perforated coupons.
Perforation.
Perforation.
The perforations in a sheet of stamps.
Perforce.
Perforce.
Perform.
Perform.
Shenye and the band are performing at the Silver Palace tomorrow.
The children perform 2 plays each school year.
Surgeons performed an emergency operation.
The official opening ceremony was performed by Princess Margaret.
An analysis of the survey data was performed.
She was fired for not performing the duties outlined in her contract.
Software that performs a specific function. The leadership cannot be expected to perform miracles.
Many religious schools perform well academically.
The team performed poorly on Saturday.
The economy is performing well.
Performance.
Performance.
The performance of Mozart's concerto in E-flat was finely controlled and dramatic.
This evening's performance will begin at 8 p.m.
Sean's performance at school has greatly improved.
I was impressed by the team's performance.
The country's economic performance so far this year has been good.
Shareholders blamed him for the company's poor performance.
Her disappointing performance in the Olympics.
Exam results are used as performance indicators for schools.
The performance of his official duties. The car's performance on mountain roads was impressive.
An imaging system using high-performance technology.
Shopping at the markets turned out to be quite a performance. Performance art.
Performance art.
Performance enhancing.
Performance enhancing.
Performance-related pay.
Performance-related pay.
Performer.
Performer.
Circus performers.
He was a better songwriter than performer. Star performers are rewarded with bonuses.
Newcastle Brown Ale is an outstanding performer in the British beer market. Newcastle Brown Ale is an outstanding performer in the British beer market. Performing arts.
Performing arts.
Perfume.
Perfume.
She was wearing the perfume that he'd bought her.
It had the delicate perfume of roses.
Perfumed soap.
Lilacs perfumed the air.
Perfumery.
Perfumery.
Perfunctory.
Perfunctory.
She gave him a perfunctory smile.
The applause was perfunctory.
Pergola.
Pergola.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Perhaps she's next door.
Perhaps it will snow tomorrow.
It won't take so long next time, perhaps.
I don't think you understand. Well, perhaps not.
This is perhaps her finest novel yet.
The Industrial Revolution was perhaps the most important event in history.
The room was large, perhaps 20 feet square. The room was large, perhaps 20 feet square.
Perhaps 200 people were there? I thought perhaps we'd have lunch in the garden.
Peril.
Peril.
They put their own lives in peril to rescue their friends.
The economy is now in grave peril.
A voyage that was fraught with peril. The perils posed by mountaineering.
The perils of the sea.
Politicians ignore this issue at their peril.
Perilous.
Perilous.
A perilous journey across the mountains.
Peril. Perilous.
Perilously.
Perilously.
Karpov, the champion, came perilously close to losing.
Perimeter.
Perimeter.
The perimeter of the airfield.
A mine blew a hole in the perimeter wall.
Calculate the perimeter of the rectangle.
Perinatal.
Perinatal.
A high rate of perinatal mortality.
Period.
Period.
Tomorrow's weather will be dry with sunny periods.
His playing improved in a very short period of time.
A brief period of silence. The drug was tested over a 5-week period.
They adopted the system for a trial period.
The conflict of the Cold War period. Van Gogh's early period.
The Jurassic period. The behavior of children during the period of adolescence.
I was 12 years old when I started my periods.
What class do you have first period?
A double period of science.
The Bruins scored twice in the first period.
I'm not going, period.
Actors dressed in period costume.
Periodical.
Periodical.
Periodic table.
Periodic table.
Periodontal.
Periodontal.
Periodontal disease.
Period pain.
Period pain.
Period piece.
Period piece.
A house furnished with period pieces.
A period piece based on a book by E.M. Forster.
Peripatetic.
Peripatetic.
A peripatetic music teacher.
Peripatetic.
Peripatetic.
Peripheral.
Peripheral.
A diplomat who had a peripheral role in the negotiations.
Her involvement in the case was peripheral.
The romance is peripheral to the main plot of the movie.
The city's peripheral suburbs.
The peripheral nervous system.
Periphery.
Periphery.
The periphery of the crowd.
A residential area on the periphery of the city.
Extremists on the periphery of the animal rights movement.
Homeopathy is on the periphery of medical practice.
Periphrasis.
Periphrasis.
Periscope.
Periscope.
Perish.
Perish.
Hundreds perished when the ship went down.
If we lose, perish the thought, Watford will take first place. If we lose, perish the thought, Watford will take first place.
Perishable.
Perishable.
Perishable goods such as butter, milk, fruit and fish.
Perished.
Perished.
I wish I'd brought a jacket. I'm perished.
Perisher. Perisher.
Perishing.
Perishing.
It was perishing in the tent. Let's go indoors. I'm perishing. Tell those perishing kids to shut up.
Peristyle.
Peristyle.
Peritonitis.
Peritonitis.
Periwinkle.
Periwinkle.
Perjure.
Perjure.
Perjured evidence.
Perjury.
Perjury.
Hall was found guilty of perjury. Perk.
Perk.
Theatre tickets and other perks.
The perks of working at a large law firm.
I only eat here because it's free, one of the perks of the job.
She seemed kind of tired, but she perked up when Helen came over.
There's no doubt coffee perks you up.
A little chili will perk up the sauce.
Perm.
Perm.
A very curly perm. I'm going to have my hair permed.
Her blonde permed hair.
A home perming kit.
Permafrost.
Permafrost.
Permanent.
Permanent.
He gave up a permanent job in order to freelance.
A permanent change in your eating habits.
The blindness that the disease causes will be permanent. Miller soon became a permanent fixture on the team.
The permanence of parental love.
Our desire for some sense of permanence.
Permanently.
Permanently.
The accident left him permanently disabled.
Permanent press.
Permanent press.
Permanent wave.
Permanent wave.
Permatand.
Permatand. A permatand chat show host. A permatand chat show host. He has dyed hair and a permatan.
Permeable.
Permeable.
The permeable cell membrane.
Permeate.
Permeate.
The smell of diesel oil permeated the air.
Rain permeates through the ground to add to groundwater levels.
Racism continues to permeate our society.
An emotional intensity permeates every one of O'Connor's songs.
Permissible.
Permissible.
The maximum permissible level of radiation.
Permission.
Permission.
You'll have to get permission from your parents if you want to come. The council refused permission for the development.
Photographs should only be taken with the permission of the subject.
Permissive.
Permissive.
Parents who are too permissive.
A permissive society.
Permissiveness in education.
Permit.
Permit.
Smoking is only permitted in the public lounge.
As a punishment, she was not permitted to attend any school activities.
Dogs are not permitted inside the shop.
The bill would permit workers 12 weeks of unpaid leave for family emergencies.
He had more than the permitted level of alcohol in his blood. The large windows permit a clear view of the lake.
The moon permitted me to see a little way into the distance.
I'll see you after the meeting if time permits.
We'll have a picnic at the beach, weather permitting.
A permit is required for fishing in the canal. Hikers need a camping permit for overnight stays in the park.
Permutation.
Permutation.
A sandwich shop that sells every possible permutation of meat and bread.
Pernicious.
Pernicious.
The pernicious effects of poverty.
The media's pernicious influence.
Pernicious anemia.
Pernicious anemia.
Pernickety.
Pernickety.
Peroration.
Peroration.
Perovskite. Perovskite.
Peroxide.
Peroxide.
Her waist-length peroxide blonde hair.
Perp.
Perp.
Perpendicular.
Perpendicular.
A perpendicular line.
A perpendicular wall of rock. A road perpendicular to the highway.
Perpetrate.
Perpetrate.
Who could have perpetrated such a dreadful crime?
Perpetrator.
Perpetrator.
The perpetrators were never caught.
The perpetrators of racially motivated violence must be punished.
Perpetual.
Perpetual.
The perpetual noise of the machines.
A little girl with a perpetual smile.
My mother's perpetual nagging. The perpetual snows of the mountain tops.
Perpetual motion.
Perpetual motion.
Perpetuate.
Perpetuate.
An education system that perpetuates the divisions in our society.
Perpetuity.
Perpetuity.
The land had been promised to the Indian tribes in perpetuity.
Perplex.
Perplex.
Shear's symptoms perplex the doctors.
Perplexed.
Perplexed.
The student looked at him, perplexed.
Perplexed investors tried to work out what the deal meant.
Perplexity.
Perplexity.
Moral perplexities.
Perquisite.
Perquisite.
Peri.
Perry.
Per se.
Per se.
The colour of the shell per se does not affect the quality of the egg. The colour of the shell per se does not affect the quality of the egg.
Persecute.
Persecute.
The Puritans left England to escape being persecuted.
Like many celebrities, she complained of being persecuted by the press.
Persecution.
Persecution.
The persecution of writers who criticize the government.
They are refugees who are fleeing religious persecution.
Persecution complex.
Persecution complex.
Perseverance.
Perseverance.
It took perseverance to overcome his reading problems.
Persevere.
Persevere.
It can be tricky at first, but persevere. He persevered with his task until he had succeeded in collecting an armful of firewood.
She had persevered in her claim for compensation.
Persian.
Persian.
The Persian Empire. A Persian carpet.
Persian cat.
Persian cat.
Persimmon.
Persimmon.
Persist.
Persist.
He persisted in his refusal to admit responsibility.
She persisted with her studies in spite of financial problems.
I don't think it's right, John persisted.
If the pain persists, you must see a doctor.
Persistence.
Persistence.
Her persistence paid off when she was offered the job of manager.
Why can't I come? Repeated Will with dogged persistence.
The persistence of high unemployment in the post-war years.
Persistent.
Persistent.
Persistent rumours.
Persistent headaches. A persistent problem.
Persistent rain.
If she hadn't been so persistent, she might not have gotten the job. Persistent efforts. Persistent offenders face a prison sentence.
Persistently low rainfall.
Persistent vegetative state.
Persistent vegetative state.
Persnickety.
Persnickety.
Person.
Person.
He was a very nice person, always pleasant and friendly.
The only person who really said anything helpful was Jack.
David was not the sort of person who found it easy to talk about his feelings. I like her as a person, but not as a boss. I still know quite a lot of people in the village. A group of young people.
I'm not a morning person.
You have to sign for it in person. The police are appealing for any person who is in the area at this time to contact them.
Murder by person or persons unknown.
All 115 persons on board were killed.
Customs officers found a gun concealed about his person.
I was met by the police in the person of Sergeant Black.
Persona.
Persona.
Joel has a cheerful public persona, but in private he's different.
Personable.
Personable.
Personage.
Personage.
A royal personage.
Personal.
Personal.
My personal view is that we shouldn't offer him the job.
Style and colour are a matter of personal taste.
She took full personal responsibility for all the arrangements.
When I went to her room, all her personal belongings had gone.
After Nelson's death, his mother received his personal effects. I know from personal experience that you can't trust Trevor.
The personal qualities needed to be successful in business.
The car is for personal use only. On a personal level, he felt sympathy for them, but he had a job to do.
Celebrities with their own personal trainer.
I don't answer questions about my personal life.
May I ask you a personal question?
The records will include other personal details such as nationality, date of birth and address.
He's got a few personal problems at the moment.
The envelope was marked personal and confidential.
We're not allowed to make personal phone calls at work.
It's unprofessional to make such personal remarks.
A bitter personal attack on the president.
There's no need to get personal.
It's nothing personal. I just have to go home now.
Small companies can devote more personal attention to each project.
As you get promoted in a firm, you lose that personal contact.
Apparently, the director is a personal friend of hers.
Grant was always fussy about his personal appearance.
The importance of personal hygiene.
It's those extra personal touches that make our service better.
I ran 20.51 seconds for a personal best.